So guys, hi everyone, thanks for coming to the seminar. My name is Volchenkov and I'm a modeler from Norway, but I'm originally Russian. So if you speak Russian, you can ask me in Russian. If you speak Czech, you can speak Czech. Sure. Okay. So otherwise, English is okay. And today's topic is winter painting the winter vehicles and winter camouflage and winter weathering. And we have quite a lot of time because I stepped in instead of Chris Jarrett and he asked for 2-hour demonstration. So let's hope we keep for 2 hours. If we finish before, we finish before. But I haven't done any slides because I got very short notice, like some days ago. They asked me to make a demo. But I think it's better if we make like a live demo. We discuss different issues regarding painting, how to paint winter camouflage and how to weather it. And if you have questions, you just ask them while I'm showing, because I see that you want to ask a question. So the first thing which I think is important before we do a painting is choosing the subject and how we decide what we painted. Because, I mean, you can do a model without any references and just, okay, I want to do a winter camouflage. I take it step by step from somebody and just decide, okay, I want to do it like that, and I do it like that. But if you want to make a model which represents something real, you have to check the references, because reference images would show you how the vehicles actually look like and what kind of camouflage pattern they have, and they will give you hints also about weathering and how they look in different conditions. Because in modeling there are some approaches that we can say that this is a cliche, like you want to make a heavy stressed whitewash with a lot of mud, everything is wet. But this is a situation that happens once during winter, for example. And in many conditions there is no mud, for example. There is only dry snow, or the mud is only dry and there is not a single piece of wet surface in it. So it's very important when you do a model in context that you kind of think about it. And then how you do it is like you decide it depending on the theater of war and what kind of vehicle it is and so on. So besides, I haven't brought you slides, I brought some magazine articles that I published, and the thing is that usually when you work, so you do basic painting, right, and then you do winter, whitewash and so on. So like here you see here I made a turret with free-dome camouflage, and here's for example whitewash hull. This is just for demonstration. But the key thing is like this turret is just basic painting. I just painted 3 colors without doing anything extra. But what you can do and what you should consider when you make a model is how much complexity you want to put in model before you do a whitewash. Like for example in this article, I can test the magazine after. First I did a modulation, like different highlights on a primer paint. Then I put chipping fluid and put yellow, this is the basic color for German tanks. I made scratches and chipping of yellow down to the primer. Then I put again layers of chipping fluid, put the camouflage and make stressed worn camouflage. And only after that I go to painting the whitewash. So it all depends on how you want to do and what you want to do. So it's like you decide how much complexity you want to put into model before you actually do the winter whitewash. And of course, like color modulation and things like that, chipping and so on, it's also kind of you need to decide. Do you want to do a lot of different effects on model before you actually go for whitewash? Because whitewash is also a different process. Like you can have, like here in the front, on the glacis, it's really worn, right? Here I haven't done anything with it. And if you have very complex painting underneath, it doesn't make sense because you will just close it. But if you have very stressed or like pattern or something like that, then of course if you invest a lot of effort into a complex surface, it would be all seen on the model when it's finished. So it all depends on how you want to do and what you want to do here. like also this is an example of article with the whitewash model. Here I have done the complex surface, like on that one, it's just one color, whitewash, and just weathering the whitewash model. So it's like you need to decide this, and you need to choose the methods that you think, oh, this is very good for my setting. Because like nowadays, there are on modern vehicles, there are some dotted white camouflages. Of course, you're not going to do overall white, you just paint some dots, and then you weather it. So of course, you invest a lot of into how you make the model itself. So when we do whitewashed vehicles, it's like we have several approaches, right? And let's say the classic one, or the most one that everybody heard about, is the hairspray method. When you basically separate the painted surface from the next layer. And different kind of commercially available chipping methods, like from Vallejo or from MOF or AKs or any kind of brand, they basically do the same thing. But the thing is that they are slightly different from hairspray. And also the problem is that hairsprays, if you go to the shop, you'll see different hairsprays. They have different strength and different composition, and this is something that I discovered is not suitable for me, that I can't really control it, because every time there's something wrong with the hairspray. And when I tried even with the airbrush, it had a tendency, like if it's a vertical surface, I applied it, and then when I put model like that, it all goes down, and then it happens that here on top I have only a little bit of hairspray, and at the bottom there's a lot of hairspray. And of course you can't really control the chipping and peeling of the paint how you do that. So what we do now is I will show you on the starter how I do the whitewash painting. And this is two examples. This I did before the demo, just for fun. So I spent roughly like 2 hours on making those side curves from this one my model based on different effects. So this is just, this is one of the examples what you can do, and what I'd like to show you that painting, at least at this level, is not very difficult. It's a 2 hour work without acceleration in the drawing time and so on. Of course, it's like not super fantastic, but I think it's sufficient. And also on these side skirts, you see that, for example, when I painted the side skirts, each side skirt a little bit slightly different camouflage, like streaks, and this one with a dotted camouflage. So it's like you decide what you want, and depending on how much whitewash you put on top, they will be more visible or less visible. So it's kind of up to you. But I think this is kind of, for me, it's a satisfactory result for quick work, let's say so. And as I do a lot of work for magazines, it's quite often you have some kind of time pressure that, oh, I need to finish the model, not just finish it, but so it looks decent, for example, in 2 months, and then you have to, work on the methods that kind of allow you to do it quickly, and so that it looks sufficient enough to show in a magazine or like that. So of course it's not every model is a super, yeah. So one of the, you still have the magazines, right? They're somewhere there. Yeah, so this Panzer Free from one of the articles, you can see it down there on one of the tables. So what I show now is how I do whitewash with chipping medium from Vallejo. Why I don't do with this chipping fluid, even though I have it, is because for me it has the same problem as hairspray. When I put it, it also tends to slide down, and the surface is not that even. With this one, I mean, it's not advertising, it's just my experience. With this one, what I like is that when I spray it, and I will show this, it kind of stays on the surface exactly where I sprayed, because it has a different surface tension, and the surface looks like a lot of small bubbles on it. And actually these bubbles will be kind of helping to peel the top coat of paint. And also this is acrylic, so everything is acrylic, everything is, you can clean everything with water, so there's no problem with that. So here it's also acrylic paint. I think it's also Vallejo paint. And I don't put any varnishes or something like that, because there's no danger for underlying paint when you use this. And also interesting thing is when, for example, when I was doing this fancy free with many different layers, primer, yellow, camouflage, and then white, I haven't put any varnishes in between any of those. Because when it's the time passes, you're not really able to chip the paint anymore. But if you work really quickly, you can chip down to the first layer through all layers. And this also makes very interesting effects for you, and you can enjoy it. Please come inside and take a seat. So yeah, I'm spraying at quite low pressure. It's around 20 PCI. So it's quite low, and it's the same power that I spray, the same pressure that when I spray the acrylic paints. So that one should be shaky, and then you can paint. Also, what I do, sorry, this is the ones that I had at home. I usually put glove at least on one hand, because I want to hold the model without any risk of not only fingerprints, but you know, when you hold the model for a long time, your hands get warm and you can take the paint off, even regardless if you prime the model or whatever, you can kind of stretch it, and this is not what you want to have in the model. So I work with one-handed gloves, and also it's clean hand. So when you're at home and you just quickly need to do something else, except rolling, take off the glove, do your stuff at home while the paint is drying, put on the gloves again and work again. So when spraying, it's always nice to test first on something, not just on your model. And this chipping medium is very thick in comparison to hairspray if you put it in airbrush or like those kind of sprays. So yeah, you have to play a little bit with how you adjust it. So sometimes you maybe have to adjust the airbrush or adjust the pressure. So here it doesn't matter, like you don't have to be very accurate when you spray this kind of chipping fluid. You just kind of spray, and what you want to see is it's very efficient that you see that it's wet. So you kind of control your eye, where you have it and where you don't have it. Often in the articles you see or online you read, I put several layers of it, but this is something individual. I mean, you can, when it's a good chipping fluid, you can take all the paint off, just everything. But I have a feeling that when you put too much of it, that will be, let's say, negative effect for you. So sometimes when I want to have only a little bit of chipping, I put only one coat, and yeah, I don't put more. Then it will be not that easy to chip the paint. But then you will be happy that like you remain a lot of stuff on top. So like that. And you see for this turret, right, it's quite huge, it's for more than 10. So it's a big one, and let's say if you prime this with green color, I used 6 mm paint. It's quite a lot, because when you add the hull, it's like not at least hull, but twice more. But the chipping fluid is very efficient because it covers a lot. And let's say I use this, I started using this several models ago, and it's still not even half of it. So the rest of it is easy to wash it out. And also I use like some cleaner so that I don't have for sure any trace of chipping fluid. So cleaners or like paints, you know, you can use whatever you want. Just something that you like how it works. So it doesn't matter which brand it is. And it's important to clean the airbrush after using the chipping fluid, so there's no chipping fluid inside, because it will be kind of sticky. You can make your airbrush stick. So yeah, if we just have a look on the turret, I'm not giving it you in hands. So So you see it's kind of all wet, right? And if you only can use the camera, maybe it's better, right? I don't know if how it looks. So it's kind of all wet, and also the way the fluid is laying there, it's kind of bubbles from small spots. So you can kind of see if you expose it to light, but it's not really even. It's more like kind of dots. There you see. Well, it's not really bad. It's, yeah, here yes, but otherwise it's like if you touch it with the finger, it's not sticky. So that's also the advantage of this particular chicken fluid. That's really drying very fast. I like it because, as I mentioned, I like to work fast sometimes, or I have to do fast work. And what is also important, I mean, we're talking now about winter vehicles, but you can use the same approach for like when you have any kind of multi-layer paint, or if you just want to make chipping so that it looks realistic in a way that you want to chip the paint onto primer, for example. For the priming model, I mean the color of the primer of the vehicle, chipping fluid, and you camouflage, and then you chip it, and you get a controlled chipping, so you don't have to paint chipping afterwards. Of course, you do some refinement here and then. You want to do something like extra effects that you, for example, haven't really made it with chicken fluid, but it's very easy to see where you are and like what you see. It's like, you know, you are preparing. So, yeah, the second hand that is without chipping, without gloves, sorry, you can test it. And not with fingers, but with the side so that you don't put any traces. It's still wet in some areas here. Where I put a little bit more. So another, while it's still waiting and drying, another approach for making a whitewash is using a washable paint. Like for example on this hull, here it's not chicken fluid. This is done with washable paint. Here the approach is a little bit different, that you don't need to put a layer that separates. You just it's kind of in a way more natural to the real painting of real tanks, because they just put a layer of paint, right, and then it will kind of be worn off. So this kind of stuff is available from me, from Amov Me. I think other brands also have it, but in principle it's, I think the base of it is gouache, you know, gouache paint. Because it has these kind of properties that you can dilute it with water and you can remove it with water. So that's the thing, it's like, you know, with many products, it's not something like a really super smart idea. It's just, oh, let's use something that we haven't thought about using it on the model. Let's use it on the model. So, yeah, I will show you how to use it.
Also acrylic paint?
Yeah, this is, well, it's kind of, well, it's gouache. It's white, sorry, not white, I mean, it's water-based paint. It's a little bit different properties because acrylic paint is kind of, it has some kind of polyvinyl something inside. This is a different composition. I'm not a chemist, so I don't know what is the base for gouache, but it's like the gouache that you can buy in the shop for kids for painting. It's kind of this kind of paint. So it's not aquarelle, but it's gouache. It's called like that. If you put, you know, if you go to art store, if you go to like just where you just have paints for kids, you can find some kind of gouache paints, and yeah, it's like that. But of course, when you try something new the first time, don't do that on your model. Try it on like piece of something, a piece of plastic, whatever, just so that you know how it works. Like the difference between these separated layers and the whitewash, the problem is that this sorry, not white, but washable paint, you can't remove all of it. That's the thing that you need to know about it. So you can't make a clean surface after you apply it, because some of it will still grab to your surface. So I haven't tried it as, like, you know, maybe you can separate the layers and work it like that, but yeah, it's like, this is for different purposes, because the way you get whitewash with just separating layers is different from what you get here. And you can combine that. And I'll show you later that. So yeah, I think I can spray white on top of it. So when you spray white for whitewash, it's important that you work with matte paint, no gloss paints. Because gloss paints have different properties and they will behave the way you don't like. So don't try to do that. It's a really bad thing to do. So yeah, just spraying the same pressure and same crease. And when we apply coats of paint on top of chipping fluids, it's the best if you work in fine layers, so you don't put too much of the paint. Because if you put a lot of paint, it can crackle and you ruin your job because you don't want it. Of course, there are some situations when you want crackling of paint, when you want, like when you paint a house and you want to show in the house the crackling of paint on wood, that would work for you. That, oh cool, it looks very realistic. But on tank, maybe if you want to use it for mud paint, and that's a good idea, but not for whitewash. So fine layers. And there's also one issue with white paint, because white paints from all brands, regardless if it's Tamiya, acrylics or any other acrylics, they usually have like more thick and bigger pigment particles. So you should also consider that, because sometimes it looks like, oh, I have a lot of different particles on it, like it looks like particles. But it's not a big problem. I mean, it's like you paint it over, and also when you weather it and when you feel it, it's not a big deal for your model. So you can of course put a heavy coat of paint, but then for example if you want to do heavy chipping, it's okay if you have really large field surfaces. I think it works fine for some applications. So the amount of white is depending on what you want to show on the model. You can put a lot of white so that it kind of close everything. You can put a little bit if you want to have a more transparent work. And of course it depends on how much you want to remove afterwards. So if you remove a lot, maybe you would like to have a little bit more white. If you remove only a little bit, maybe more transparent coat would work for you, so that you will be still able to see the underlying effects, and at the same time you will have a whitewash style. So I think I will make a different density, and then we will see how the feeling is different also when there's different amounts of paint on the model. So it's more like, I'm also experimenting now. So you see the difference, right? Apply, yeah, like that, maybe better. Apply a lot of paint here and a little bit here. And that you can make some patterns. Like that, just for fun, or you know, I've seen some pictures with I don't remember whether it was Finnish tank or Norwegian, and they had like kind of dots, or maybe it was Japanese modern tank. You have this kind of dots, and this is the way they do a modern winter camouflage. So let's just have it for experiment here to see how it's different. Yeah. So you see, just for fun, I made different patterns in all of them, right? And so yeah, I'll clean the rest and also spray some washable paint on this half just to show you the difference. Because you see the difference in the result here, but it would be very nice if you see that it works differently. have any questions, if you have any questions, just ask me. Is it okay to understand? You get the message and you can follow what I want to do without the show? So the choice of paints is absolutely up to you. What you are comfortable to work with is absolutely like you use the way you want it. There's no problem with reaching the same result with different brands and different types of paint. Like some people prefer doing this with enamels. Like you can do, because enamels you can wash off, right? So I know before this new thing with washable gouache came, I know people were doing excellent whitewashes with enamel paints, like hand roll enamels. You can spray it on the mobile seal with varnish, with acrylic varnish. Then you spray hand roll enamels, so you can brush paint it. And then you get some minutes after when the paint is dry, because enamels they take like 1 day or something like that if you don't accelerate it with heat or something like that. So you have a lot of time to remove the effects. So with washable paint, it's you can spray it or you can use the brush. If you just want to paint like a small area, for example. For what I was doing also on several models now, I was painting markings with them. Like you see here, the numbers here. Like you see, the first number is not removed, right? But the other ones, the other two, like it was 220 initially. These I removed with water, and you still see that the contour, like you see the shape of the number, it's still there. So that's what I was saying about this kind of paint, that you can't remove it absolutely completely. So there's still something remaining there. And well, this is something you can use if you want to use this property. And I think they made also now dust tone paint with the same. But I mean, it's like you can, if you know what kind of paint, you can kind of mix it, right? So now they also make dust tone, and you can make dust with the same effect. Or you can make also actually dust using chicken fluids, and kind of make a layer of dust and then remove it, make accumulations of dust. It works quite okay. I tried it. So yeah, I'll spray a little bit of washable paint here on this towel. And then I show you how it's being removed. Just for the illustration. Of course, the amount of paint would make a difference in how much you can remove. If you just spray a little bit, it's easy to remove. If you spray a lot, it will be more difficult to take it out. And also when you spray it, it looks a little bit different. And when in the early days, when there were just a few articles about using hairspray and white paint, there were a lot of discussions on how do you fuse the top coat of paint, which thinner should you use and should not use. So there were a lot of different recipes, but I think this is something that you need to try. Like for example, in one of those magazines that I sent, this model that was with gray flat panzer, there I think I actually used hairspray. And I think the top coat with water, like Tamiya acrylics with water. So it's not a regular combination, because usually you thin it with acrylic thinner. But when you thin it with water, it looks very strange in airbrush cup and also behaves a little bit strange. But it's very easy to remove it afterwards because it's not that strong adhesion. when you, for example, thin it with Tamiya thinner, so it adheres better than with water. So I use this property. And also there's one other thing that you can do. It's not only about white paintings, but something else is lacquer finger chipping. It's a technique that Mike Rinaldi was using a lot. It's when you have very strong solvent, like lacquer thinner. It's a thinner from Tamiya, not the acrylic thinner, but lacquer thinner. You can simply remove basically any coats of paint, because you can use this for stripping the paint. So you can use just a little bit of this thinner on model, like on the corners, for example, and you will get down to the layer that is underneath. So if you think about it, if you plan it, and if you, for example, make a lighter tone and then paint with a dark tone, then when you remove with this thinner the dark tone, you will have like scratches of light color. So this is something you can use if you want. So
white spirit, it's okay
for
this.
You mean afterwards? No, to remove? No, white spirit, well, depending on white spirit. But usually, like, modeling white spirit would not remove the paint. Well, if you use enamels, of course, but if you use acrylics, normally white spirit is not removing acrylics. It's like if you buy in a factory, like, you know, industrial white spirit. It's very strong, so you can put it more and take it down, just bare plastic. But if it's just like modeling white spirit, the turpentine, it would not work. It's not a thinner. It's like you have this thinner from, just take a seat. You have this kind of thinner from Tamiya, you have these Gunza thinners, and also I think those kind of that are marked as cleaner, because this is for removal of acrylic paint, you can use it for that purpose. So again, checking, yeah, it's kind of ready. So then I just use a kind of flat brush with some water. Is it okay on the screen? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So just flat brush and some water, and yeah, we just kind of wash it off. And you can see that the paint starts to dissolve. And at this particular stage, you can control it in the way that, for example, you want, like you see that the layer is dissolving, right? And you can control if you, for example, want to have some kind of streaking of whitewash, or you want to have, for example, you want to have everything in one corner. Then you can kind of wash it like that with this kind of movement. And it will settle, for example, you see the paint, the thin paint here. So you see here, when it's liquid, it kind of settles where you put it with the brush. So this is what you can do. You can remove quite a lot, but not absolutely everything. That's the problem with this washable paint. I mean, it's not a problem, it's like a different property, and this is something that you want to utilize in a way. So like this way, you see, it's kind of weathered, whitewash almost completely removed, but it's still there. Or if you put like a fuel tank here, you can just remove it from center and leave it in the corners, so you kind of make it the natural way that this area is exposed to people, to the crews, climbing on the tank, standing here and so on. But here in the corners you have a lot of whitewash, because nobody's going to remove it from there. So this is very easy and very quick. So I don't know how many minutes, 15 minutes since I started spraying it, maybe 10 minutes. So it's very efficient, and if you want to make, if you think that this kind of result is the whitewash that you are looking for, then this product is very good. And also see here the patterns here, I also sprayed this paint, and you can also partially remove them. So this is something that you might want to use. And yeah, like here also you see all these accumulations. This is this washable white paint. And also you can do, like on this side, I made scratches. I don't know if you see it's here. Do you see the scratches? These can be also done with any kind of thing like a toothpick. You can just scratch it without fear that we damage the. I mean, of course, it depends on how much force you put. If you can scratch down to the plastic, but if you don't put excessive force, you can just scratch this pan, and so there's no problem with scratching it the way you like. Like for example, I know you want to do side skirts with long scratches because pan was passing through forest. Then you just put this paint and just toothpick, and okay, we have a lot of scratches here. And then after you did the scratches, you can take again the brush and fill it with water and make accumulations. And so you can work out very interesting patterns. So which I think is very interesting on your model. If you really want to do that, you can test it. There's no danger if you know touch it because there's no problem.
The right timing to remove is about 10 minutes.
Yeah, but you've seen it's very quick, right? So when I work with this, I usually like paint a hull, for example, settle it on the side, paint the turret. When the turret is finished, I can start removing the paint from the hull.
But if you wait a lot of time, it's difficult.
I can you just practice for a minute, Alex? We can test, because this one was painted like, I don't know, a month ago maybe, or 2 months ago. And I haven't used any varnishes or something. Well, let's say it's possible. And it actually looks pretty interesting. It's, of course, it adheres much better than the fresh one. But this is very good pattern also. You can remove it, but of course you have to use more pressure.
No, it's just to know if you want to.
Yeah, like you paint it.
One day, a day after you can.
Well, I haven't really done this, you know, one day after, because usually I work like if I do something like that, I do it the same day. But you see this one. Now I showed you, it's possible months after it was done. And same with scratching. Yeah, you can scratch it off. You can do whatever you want with this kind of paint. So this one I just made right now, it was painted 1 or 2 months ago, the coat of paint. So then this one, that would be a completely different story. Because the pattern of how it will go off would be different. Like there, you kind of control with the brush what you want to remove and how you want to accumulate. With the hairspray or chipping fluids, you are not able to make accumulations because you are basically removing the paint and it will be on your...
Is your better now?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's easier if I just pass the thing around. So, and you've seen, I showed you that, for example, this one, it stays in bubbles. And this is exactly what happens when I chip here. You see, it's like initially, when there's not too much force applied, it's mostly like dots and bubbles that are being removed first. When you, of course, put more force, you can remove more, and basically you can remove everything. Like here, if I start straight away with a lot of force and a lot of water, you can make it almost clean. Of course, you can make accumulations of what remains, but yeah, it's not that. It's like it looks very different from what I just showed you. And when I do that, the important thing is that I wipe the brush so that there are no leftovers. Especially, when you work not with whitewash, but if you just do some kind of different colors, you want to remove this paint from brush so that there are no. So you see here, this is a little bit of water, a little bit force. It's dotted pattern, or like only those bubbles. Here, a lot of water, more force, you can remove basically here like everything and just leave it a little bit. So this is all dependent on what is your aim with the model. And let's just see how it looks with patterns. Maybe you just want like wipe it only on the edges. So this is also possible. You do it in a very controlled way. Just a little bit water and it works. So with this approach it's also possible to get back if you did it and you repeat it some days after what you want to do. So there's no problem with it. But yeah, don't leave it for months, right? Because that would be a different story. Like when you do this, it's not just like I painted whitewash and I just make it equal removal of paint overall, because this never happens with the real vehicle. Like if you put it overall, some areas would be exposed to crews because they will be climbing tank, like here around hatches they will be, you know, touching everything. So it will be more stressed, and some areas would never get any kind of attention from the crew because they never reach this area. So this is something you kind of think about when you do a whitewash. Like let's say these surfaces of this turret would never get anything, but you may put some scratches because you know the turret turns, and then it may get into some bushes or something like that. And you can work. Yeah, it doesn't matter, you know, any kind of pattern you can remove like that. But of course, if you have transparent layers, you have an easier removal. If you'd have a lot of paint, you can have a problem that you would not be able to make very delicate removal, because when you have a lot of paint, at least it happens several times with me, when you have very thick layer of top coat of white, it will peel in very big areas, like the whole panel just goes off. And in some situations you want it, but in some you don't. So it's better not to do things that you don't really want to do, you know. So yeah, but how much you remove is something you need to think of. And of course, if I put a little bit of paint here, right, it's very easy to remove it. When we have thicker spots, it's more difficult. But maybe this is something that you want to show on the model, that you have a very thick layer of white paint that was removed only partially in some particular areas, like only edges, for example. So yeah, but I think it works any area you want. And this is really what I really like about this chip-in fluid thing, that it works every time I use it. So I don't know what was my hairspray called. Maybe I haven't found the right hairspray, because I know one of my friends in Norway, he bought like 10 different cans of hairspray, and he just tested like each of them on a piece of plastic and said, only 2 of them work in my hands. Yeah, but okay, I don't have time and I don't have desire to buy 10 cans of hairspray in a shop and test each of them. I'd rather, you know, it's like, of course I also did some tests because I have several products at home, but as soon as I found the one that kind of works for me in any situation, I don't really need to do tests because I'm happy with what I can do. So you can pass it around. So you would see that the effects, like important things is that here it's in dotted pattern and it's exactly where the chip-in fluid was. And more force you can remove more. And depending on thickness of the paint, you get the different effects. Like you can completely remove it and it will be only on the spots. So yeah, you can take it. No worries really. I mean, I would scrap it after the seminar. I'm not going to use it. You can just pass it around.
Roman catch.
What?
Roman catch.
Yeah, well, you can have it. You can have it if you want. So, where are the side skirts that I also have, like small side skirts? So, on these side skirts, with a chip and fluid technique, these two examples. So I haven't used washable white, let's say, as a basic paint here. So this is with chip and fluid. And you also see I did different layers, like different thickness of white. Like here it's more thicker, here it's less, and yeah, like here it's more, a little bit more. So it's like you have to consider what you want to do on the model. Scratches, so it's all kind of effects that you want. But the next thing is that you can play with the turret. So what I do with, even when I work with chip and fluid, what I do next with this washable paint is I refresh the whitewash. Because if you think, I mean, again, it depends on what kind of model you are building. If you want to build, like, for example, factory fresh whitewashed tank, then of course it will be almost intact whitewash. Maybe you do some kind of contrast washes, a little bit dirt on the running gear, and that's it. But usually you want to do something more, battle damage tank, or like during the battle, or modern, things like that. So, and of course, if the battle would be, or like the tank would be used for a long time, right? Then the thing is that it's just because natural way would be that if the tank has been warm enough, then the crew would be refreshing the whitewash. They would try to kind of make it again camouflaged and covered. So how I did it on these samples, for example, I made one. I'll show it on this. It doesn't matter which one I used. So the next step that I usually do is that I want to have a not homogeneous whitewash, but different shades of white. And you can use different tools for that. So different approaches. I mean, the one that you think it fits best to what you do. But usually I use filters. So like, these are old filters from MIG Productions. Let's say I bought them 4 years ago, and you see I'm still using the bottles. Because so filter is very, very, very thin paint. And in principle, you can thin the paint yourself. You can make a filter from acrylic paints, or like this is enamel based, or you can do from oil. So it's like you select the product that you have already at home, and when you thin it to desired consistency, you can use it. So there's no need, to buy. Oh, I need to buy a filter. I need to buy this. I need to buy that. Well, basically, you can have a tube of oil paint, thinner, and adjust the concentration. It's only about, if you want a particular tone, then you have to mix it, right? Or if you want particular ready, you want to have filter ready, wash ready, and things ready, then of course you can have a lot of different bottles with, I can just use it from the bottle, close it, and continue on model. So for whitewashed vehicles, I usually it's gray, it's called gray, but it's not 100% gray, it's more like, yellowish something, but you can mix, like I was mixing 2 oil paints. It's black and very light blue. You can make it, it will be very cold toned gray with a little bit blue tone. It's very nice on the whitewash actually. But you can make a filter, or depending on what you want, depending on conditions, like maybe you want to have more brown or more darkish. So filter is, that's the next step in this kind of applications, and I just put it on the model. So kind of the idea of the filter is that you darken the whole surface, or change the whole surface in this particular area. And what is also you can think about, and what I do very often, like here you see, I'll pass it around, and but like here I apply the filter, and it's a little bit different from those. Maybe not too much contrast, but This is how I like to work. I don't do very strong contrasts. Maybe this is a disadvantage, but yeah, it's just, you know, the way I like to do it. And for example, in this area under the turret, I would put more darker filter because, you know, these areas are more dirty and so on. And I always put the excess of the thing on paper or towel or whatever. So some people often ask, like, what's the difference, or why can't I use a filter and as a wash? Well, of course you can use it, but you know, wash is usually more thicker. You can kind of have a very thin or very you know, fine wash with the filter, but it's a different thing. So if you do a wash and you mix yourself, you have to have more paint to thinner when you do a wash, not filter. So yeah, I can just pass it around the thing. It's very subtle, the difference is not that strong, let's say. But you will see that here we have fresh white, right? And here we have more faded, and here it's more brownish. So that's what you do. And after that you can pass it around to everyone. And after that you can refine the paint. Like refine with white so that you reach this kind of result afterwards, because here it's with several layers of white.
Roman, are you applying this filter only on the dry surface, or are you using, for example, the white spirit to wet the surface slightly and
No,
then applying
usually it's just dry surface. But I mean, if you wet it, it's a different application, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you get it even more thin.
Yes, I'm using it for the wash purpose.
Yes.
When the wash works as a filter a bit as well.
Yeah, that's true.
But
That's
I'm asking
right.
about filter because I'm not familiar with filters.
Yeah, but filter is just very thin paint. You can take a wash and, like you say, you put thinner, you use a wash, it will be the same effect because you will dilute the wash, right?
Yeah.
So it's just about dilution ratio. That's why I'm saying you don't really need to have a specific bottle with product for filter. You can just
You're applying filter on the whole surface, not on the...
Yes, the filter.
So you can manage the pigment to the areas you want to have more intense effect.
You just control it with a brush the way you want. It's like, you know, it's like, you know, it's like what I think is like, as long as it works for you, it's not wrong. If you want to make it like that, to make a desired effect, you can use whatever you want, whatever brand.
Whatever, how it's called.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter the brand or like, the most important is the effect that you want to reach and the tone, like a combination of color tones. So these are the things that you need to think about. So you will not be doing green filter over the whitewash. But actually, you know, I did it once on a whitewashed model. It was too white. And I wanted to, and it was too late. Like it was finished, and then the friend told me, well, I think it's too white on the turret. It was stupid that you did like that. So what I did, I just used very heavy diluted base coat. I applied it there, and then it looked like a really worn whitewash because it's the same color. So I mean, it's all about what you want to do, and the best thing you can do for a model is you experiment. It's not just, you know, I read a method from somebody, like from Mickey Manus or Adam Wilder, you read the method and say, okay, if I follow this, I'll get a supermodel. Well, maybe if you're lucky, but it's best when you experiment and you try things and you see, okay, this is different on my model because I used different thinner or maybe different things and so on and so on. So it's like, you know, it's not kind of you make your result, it's not the product, it's just it's like you have shown that the reason of a car crash was a layer.
Practice.
The reason of the car crash was the layer between the steering wheel and driver's seat. So you are this layer. The result of your model is not the product, it's what you do. You know? So maybe the quality of brushes might be important because you'll get finer layers when you brush it. But yeah, otherwise, nowadays most of the products are same nice quality, and you can do whatever you want. Like I mentioned, you can thin Tamiya paint with water and apply it for whitewash and so things like that. I'll just make it on this one as well. So of course, if you put a lot of filter, it would look maybe too exaggerated. So it's better always to work in a very fine coats so that you can gradually build the result. Not just you put a lot of this and you think, okay, I'm done. Well, when you have limitations in time, maybe it works out. But if you have time and if you have a possibility to think about your model, it's better to work in layers and you think about every layer. Like here, it's also an example. Like I put. Is it automatic focus or?
Yes.
So I put here like a bit more filter. You see it, and it accumulates around the rivets, around bolt heads. So in a way, you do kind of a little bit the base for washes, or depending on how much weathering you want to do. This might be when you say, I'm fine with this. It's like it all depends on what is your aim with your model. Of course, if you want to do something like, for a competition, then you kind of think about it. You want to make it as best as possible, so it's kind of, catchy and very attractive. But many people do models just for themselves. So, it's like, I'm happy with this. It's like, I have models that I'm not going to bring to a competition, but I'm happy with the result because this is what I want to do sometimes. Like, I do a model that is like, well, it's not catchy, right? But I think it's realistic and I like it. I put it in my cabinet and I'm happy, when I see it because it's important model for me. I don't know, quite many different techniques with building and so on. So, it's like you need to do something that you really enjoy, So, I want the help back. Or I can put more filters on this thing actually. So I can work on it as well. But also I think I should shape it a little bit more. So it's very good when you work and you wipe your brush because, especially when you have heavier coats of white paint or any other different paint, when you work with separation of layers, because you will have particles of paint that kind of accumulate on the model. Because when you remove the top layer, and you can, especially when it's wet, you see that there are particles laying there. And when you wipe the brush, you remove those particles to paper towel or like, I don't know what you use, or if you just wash it. So you remove those particles, because if you don't remove them, afterwards, when it dries, these particles would be as small grains on the model. And if, as a next step, you would put a wash or you would put a filter, especially the wash, it will accumulate around those grains. And then the surface of your model will be totally ruined because of those particles, because it will just look like an anti-slip surface, like a lot of sand on it, things like that. Also, when you work, you need to consider how dark is your initial surface. Like with those side skirts, I use very light coats of yellow, and you see it darkened a lot, like it looks quite dark. And if we just start with colors like this on the turret, you need to think about how you weather it, because it looks quite dark. So maybe you can do a lighter tones, like on this hull, it's much lighter tones in the start. So these are the things you can think about. So so on this one, right, you've seen the difference between this panel and those panels, right? Everybody seen them all, right? So the next step is refining of whitewash, or like repeating the whitewash, how the crew would do it. And in principle, you can kind of repeat this process as long as you are happy with it. Like you can make 2-3 layers depending on what you want, and different tone of filter or different white. But But then, yeah, it's easier to do again with this washable paint because you can wash it off and do again effects. So I'll just put it somewhere here and paint something with a brush and then try to remove it. So let's say they repainted, I don't know, this bar here. Or somewhere here, I don't know, this area. You can try to think about movement, like small brushes when people do that. Just paint it like that. Not necessarily homogeneous, not that necessarily nice, because you know when soldiers are painted, they are not that precise, and if they don't want to do that, or if they're in a hurry, they just, you know, make something on their tent and yeah, we are done. We can also do some patterns, just something. Like that. Just imagine that we did it on whole or on the part that you want. So you see the, because I don't see that much on the screen. Do you see the fresh areas like here? There's a fresh area here of white and some new patterns here. And when you get the model, you see that the difference actually, even if we put one small layer of very fine paint, very thin filter, the difference between this coat that I just brushed and the one that is under filter is dramatic actually, even though it's just one filter. So I make it like that, right? And I again take some water, so I'm not waiting for anything. I'm just, you know, continue work if I have a good mood and so on. And again, so here the difference is that first we airbrushed it, right? Now I'm just using a brush. And it's the same thing. You can remove it completely, or you don't need to remove it completely, or you do effects, you accumulate it. And you can repeat this process as long as...
Looks awesome. Best ever.
Now, so you can repeat this process of refining the whitewash until it looks satisfying for your eyes. Or if you have a reference picture when you kind of reached, when you think that, okay, I reached what I want to do on the model, then it's okay. And sometimes you can, so that it's more attractive, you refine it again. Like here I put maybe more random dots, because yeah, properties of paint, it would not be removed completely. So you can, for example, enhance the details or paint it somewhere. I mean, this is, you know, I just did a quick assembly, glued the top thing to the lower hull and just put side skirts without putting all the details. Of course, it's much easier to do that when you have some kind of details. Like here, you can put accumulations. Let's say it was repainted here, and we put accumulations here, like a lot of paint. Then we wet it and remove and keep it inside the corner so that there's a lot of paint in there. And do like streaking effects and so on. So I'll just pass it around to you. And just, so the crucial thing is that you need to know the difference between the refresh layer and the one underneath. Because of the color filter, the one underneath is kind of faded and gray. And this one is fresh. And of course, depending on what you want to do, you can just put fresh white and not remove it. Some people use oils for that. But it's when you work with acrylics, the advantage is that you can work fast. You don't need to wait for oils to dry. You just put it as it is. So yeah, the next step would be, of course, to do a wash and to highlight all the details. More recently, I mean, in principle, you can mix a wash using oil paints, and you can use tones that you kind of you know, you find a tone that you think is suitable for your model. Like you can use brown oil paint, or you can, like for fancy gray, like gray Germans. I usually mix, I was using this mix of black and very light blue, but or you can use commercial stuff. This is the one that is marked streaking grind for interiors, so it's kind of intended for making streaking effects inside tanks on the white thing. But I mean, it's for white thing, right? And I was thinking like, okay, well, I think it should match on the whitewash. Why not? So all those products are just kind of, you know, they're enamel based. So when you work with them, you can thin it and control it with enamel thinner. So of course you can, if you want, you can put, I mean this is very quick demonstration in a way, but if you want you can put satin varnish or like gloss varnish, like when you are happy with the result, right? You can seal it with a varnish for your like security, you know, but I've heard people having issues with varnishes when varnish gives some weird effects. So I don't know, it's like when I work, I usually don't use varnishes at all, so maybe it's a little bit not smart in the way that I'm not secure in the work and I can ruin it. But like during the last 2 years I did 25 models approximately. I'm not sure I used varnish to secure layers. It's more like you use varnish on the running gear because you want to have mud surface for pigments. But otherwise, yeah, it's like, but of course I can say that, you know, this is something that would work for you all the time. Like if you don't secure the layers and you just work with it, maybe you will have some effects because I don't know what kind of thinner. Maybe if you use like strong white spirit, it may eat through paint and then, well, yeah, you have a problem. But otherwise, I'm not using varnishes at least in this stage. But of course, you know, when you add satin varnishes, it's very easy to do a wash because the paint will be flowing on top. So when you are not doing varnish surface, you will have you will have difficulties to make the paint flow, like enamel paint when you do a wash. But you know, like for example, Valerio, they have now a range of acrylic washes. And this is a completely different story because they don't flow like normally like oil paint washes flow using the, how we call it, it's not gravity, but yeah, so like they don't flow, you know, because of capillary action. Yeah, the capillary action is the proper word. So they're not flowing, the acrylic washes. And you have to be really careful, like you do not general wash, but just pin wash around the details. And in principle, as a rule, I'm not doing general washes. I don't feel comfortable with that. Like I don't need something to darken the surface overall because I never paint the models that light that I do overall wash, because some people do very light base coats, like really light, like 5 or 6 tones, I don't know, more lighter than it's on a finished model, right? Then you would like to do overall wash or maybe darker filter. But when I do, it's like I don't do very extreme highlights on the models. I don't do extreme color modulation and things like that. So I do it lighter than a real color, but not very extreme. So I'm not doing overall washes, just pin washes. So yeah, I'm using, like recently I started using this particular tone, but I mean it's not about quality. It's like I said, you can mix this kind of tone. It's just what you want. So it's just put in it with a small brush. It's like a regular pin wash just in the corners. Of course, there will be stuff around. I know. Like yeah, I paint a little bit larger surface, and then I show you. Of course, there will be leftovers of product, but it's the same with the wash, and it is actually flowing. So it's just that it's not flowing too much, like if you would have a varnished surface, but it's still flowing, and yeah, you can control it. So the color of the wash that you put in a whitewashed vehicle is usually, it's not very bright, because you know winter it's kind of more grime and dirt, so it's not something shiny, but it shouldn't be black wash, because black would be too contrast and it's very uninteresting color when you see it. So it should be somewhere between this grayish brown or maybe more cold gray blue, something like that. But of course it depends on what is your initial color of the model. So you can adjust that, and you can adjust it according to what you do, like overall web. So it should be all, you know, in context. You just think about it, and yeah, it's something you can always decide. So I'm just putting it a little bit on the panels, around the rivets and around different details. And like, let's say the wash is in painting, in weathering is the most important step, because before that you see like, okay, I see different panels, right? But when you put the wash that imitates the accumulation of dirt, natural accumulation of dirt, you can erase the surface. You kind of break the surface that now looks like, okay, here it's more or less even, right? Even if I chip it here, it's kind of flat surface in a way. But when you put the wash, you kind of see, okay, I see there's a square hedge here, or there's some rivets here. So it's a very powerful instrument in a way. So again, here you can have two ways how you remove it. The first way, the classical way, would be with thinner. You take the same thinner that was used for making of the wash itself. So it's like if you do oils and you thin oils with turpentine, you should use turpentine to wash, to remove the excess of the wash. Or if you use this kind of brand products, you need to know that, okay, this is white spirit based, or this is like, I don't know, turpentine based. Like, you need to have a matching thinner. Of course, you can use something else, but then there's like no 100% guarantee that it will really work. So it's like you need to have the same thinner. If you use acrylic washes, like from Vallejo, or if you just make acrylic washes yourself, like you take a paint and thin it, really highly thin, you can use it as acrylic wash. But then you need to have acrylic thinner, or something that is kind of acrylic thinner. Those that, like this one, they have this thinner for airbrushes, but this is for their own paints. So it works perfectly as a thinner for, you know, removal wash. But of course, if you have all kind of paints from this thinner, then you are not able to use it because you will destroy the underlying coat. So thinner is one thing, and the second thing is using a makeup sponge. So this is something that you can buy in stores with female clothes, or just stores where you have like also for kids, you know. But this is a real makeup sponge, so it's for makeup. You can ask your girlfriend if she has it, or your wife. Most likely she has it. Maybe she will not be happy if you take it without permission, but yeah, it's a very powerful tool because it kind of sucks the thing from the surface, and you just wait until it's dry. Like here you see I put a lot of wash in this. You can see the area, so we need to wait until it really dries. But where I put a little bit, you can use this sponge and just wipe it out. And then you don't have to work with the thinner. And you have a clean surface. And the wash that is inside the panel lines or around the details, it remains there. Because the sponge doesn't go into the line that kind of took the wash, but you take it off from the surface. Here it's also important that you don't really work with semi-dry or not dry paint. So the best is when you have dried surface, you take this and you remove it. Like here you can like you see here, it was a really dirty surface, but then with the sponge you can just remove it. So it's kind of very efficient, or at least I find it very handy. You don't wait a lot of time and you don't work with thinner, just yeah, you have it sharp and that's it. So it's all about you know, it's like sometimes you find tools that are not, you haven't thought about it. What would you think about having a makeup sponge, right? But so I've been to a seminar with Nick Jimenez, and he showed me this thing. Oh, that's very cool. Like one of the best tools I found recently is makeup sponge from makeup store. Okay, cool. It's like usually 4 or 6 of those are like €1 or something like that. It's very cheap stuff. And there are different of those. Like there are those that look more like a sponge that you use for solder cleaner. This wouldn't work. You need to have this thick. You can just pass it around. You can have a look at it. So it's very thick material. Yeah, you can use quite a lot of it. It's quite thick. Okay. So yeah, the next effect that I usually do after wash is with this. It's like, you know, you decide what you want. If you want to have a lot of streaking of the paint, like streaking of grime, you can do that. And you can do, you can use a speckling technique for very small, fine dots of. Yeah, everybody's seen those, right? You've seen the small dots. It kind of replicate small dots that, like small pieces of mud that remain on the surface when the vehicle is moving, and you have it all around when it was wet. So the color is, of course, so this is a very easy technique, how to do those kind of dots, and it's not limited to mud or winter vehicles, so you can use it on any kind of vehicle in any kind of condition, like for example dust or something like else. When you want to have like very rich surface with very small fine dots of something else, you know. So it's very easy to do it. You need this kind of brush. It's a flat brush. You can use an old brush, and you just use the finger to speckle the paint. Some people do when they put pigment or paint on the brush and use an airbrush. But the problem is that in this way you use a lot of force, because you can't control airbrush in this way that, oh, I get only a little bit from this, right? You just get a splash because, you know, you press it and you get massive airflow. When you use a finger, you kind of control the way you do the speckling, the way you release the crystals of the paint. It's like you decide what you want. And this is a very powerful technique overall, and you can use it for many applications. Like if you want to make rusty steel plate, you can do different tones of rust, acrylics or enamels, oils, whatever. You can quickly speckle different tones, and you have a very nice, very rich, very attractive rusty plate. But so in this example, I would use it for making small drops of mud. So also, important thing about this, when you just use paint, you have it, you don't change the surface in a way that it's, you know, in scale. But if you want to make it like a real pieces of mud, you can mix it with pigments, for example, or plaster, and then you would have more texturized mud. So it's very simple. Again, I have some ready-to-use things here, which are enamel-based, and it's very easy to weather afterwards. So with this technique, it's important. You can just, you know, try it at home when you take paint, take thinner, and test the ratio of, or like the thickness of the paint. Because if you have very thick paint, you will have, like, let's say, bigger droplets. If you have it finely thin, you can really work on two-scale effects, because like I like quarter scale more than 1/48 scale. And there it's very handy that you don't paint the effects, but rather speckle them. And in this way, they are really small, because you can get really, really small dots of paint. And it's really handy to have. So it's very simple. A little bit of paint and just do it like that. So I can show it on the side skirts of this tank, for example. So you can, if you want to, for example, separate, like if you want to show effect on like one panel, for example, only in the rear somewhere, you can mask the areas. But if you don't want, you just do it like that. You need to test it to get the feeling of how the paint really is being released from the thing. So like closer to the edges, I will add more speckling. And of course, unfortunately, there are no wheels here, but it would be very nice with wheels. And then you did it with one tone, and then you can do it with another one. Of course, I have more or less similar tones here, but you can have like different ones, and then it's you make enriched surface with very fine effects. And it's very easy to use. So all techniques I'm talking about today are very easy to use, and I think that's very important that you are using simple techniques to get the result that you like. We'll do some more here on mud guards to show you how you can weather these effects afterwards. You can of course put real paint, just paint with a brush without speckling and weather it, but yeah, it's very nice like that. We just do splashes here. If you add pigments of any tones like of interest that you really like, you would get more texture. If you feel it more, like these two are a little bit different. Like this one I used first here. On this panel I will pass it down. This is thicker than this one, and you would see that the drops are more heavy here. But it's very easy to do those kind of effects. It looks like, okay, you have splashes of mud, because when tank moves on wet area, there will be a lot of mud coming around. Like in one of those magazines, you have it right. Yeah. And in one of the magazines, on the rear, I can put it on the screen next to the camera. Like you see here on the rear of the vehicle, the build-up of mud is made with this technique. So I was using pigments, different pigments, and you put more pigment here, you get more accumulations, and here it's more like just thin paint, and then it's really fine small droplets of mud or dirt, whatever. Yes, you want to join? So this is a very powerful technique. And it's very good to use when you want to do like a rusty mold, for example, also, like when you do those rusty plates. And what else you can do with those drops, you can put them, you can kind of weather the whole surface with it. I can use it on the top. But then you should think about that what you do should be kind of visible on the model, because if I put it here on a black, it wouldn't be very visible because it's like the color is very similar to black. So then you need to just think about it. How would you want to do this on a black surface? Maybe the black areas you would have maybe more whitewash there, so it's kind of white. And of course, the lighter the tone, the easier it is. So like, let's say here I will make again those specklings, small drops. And the next thing to do would be to take thinner. First of all, you can of course correct. That's a very you can correct what you did with the thinner, and that's a very good thing about enamels or oils. That if you are not happy like you did it, you have a look at it and you think, oh, well, it's too much of it, too much effect. Or you think, well, this is not the color I really wanted to use. I want to use something different. No problem. You just take a thinner and you just remove it because it's an enamel-based effect. But what is also good, you can blend the effect. Like I also pass it around now and show it on the screen. Yeah, but I'm not sure if you see. It's easy if I pass it around. Like on this particular second, you will see a lot of striking aspects. Like just imagine that the tank went through mud, right? You got a lot of it, but then it was really wet, and it, for example, it dried, or sorry, not dried, dissolved and went down, right? You'll have a lot of streaking. So I basically dissolve most of the dots with vertical movements, and you get these kind of effects. And it's very easy to control, because if you put a lot of paint with the brush, you'll have a lot of it. And when you try to remove it, you will have very big streaks, like they will be too large. I mean, it can look like, okay, I'm happy with it, but if you think about working to scale, it will be, it's a little bit overdone. You know, maybe it's okay on 1:16 model, but on a small, like 35 or 40 scale, and 72, that will be too much of one large streak. With this kind of technique, you can blend it. And it's very easy when you want to do a rusty plate, you do the same effect. And then if you think about, okay, the rusty plate was laying outside, there was rain coming out over it, and all the rust was flowing there. So it's very easy to blend it down. Do you have any questions right now about anything seen so far? No questions, okay. So when we've done it, I don't have any pigments here, so I'm not able to show you anything about pigments, but I can talk about it a little bit, because so we use pigments for mud imitation on the running gear, for texture, and it's very, the simplest way is that you put matte varnish, like, yeah, matte varnish from any brand. You put it on it, and then you take pigments with your brush and just dip it like that on the running gear. Of course, you need to close the rest of the model so it's not messy there. But you dip it like that, and the thing that matte varnish does, it glues the pigment exactly where it flows. It's not dissolving it, and that's a very important thing, because usually people say, like, okay, you need to have a pigment fixer, but I mean, pigment fixer dissolves everything. So you need to have a lot of pigments, or pigments with, how I call it, Gibbs? Plaster. Yeah. To have texture. But if you just put matte varnish and just drop pigments from top like that, from brush.
It's drying time of the matte varnish?
What?
It's drying time? Directly after spraying? Or?
Yes, you put, like, you have a surface, right? You put here matte varnish and put it right after that. Well, of course, when it's dried, there will be no agglutination, right? Because you want to glue, you basically glue the pigment. And then you don't need plaster, you just do, of course, if you want to have a really heavy build-up of mud, you can first prepare the sort of like you make with the putty or something like that, or texture paste, and then you can work up the pigments. So there's one more thing I would like to show you about winter vehicles, is making of snow. Because this is a very interesting topic, and many people talk about this, how to make snow realistic on the model. And there are a lot of products available for it, and techniques. You know, some people just use baking soda, white glue, mix it, and okay, I put it there. And then there were a lot of discussions, okay, my baking soda became yellow. Well, okay, so there are different things available from different manufacturers. Like, I have this from Alan Wilder, it's called Snow, textured snow. It looks like a paste with some filler. I can pass it around, but I found that it's suitable only in some applications, like when you want to have on a diorama or on a TV base, you want to have melted snow. Like it's springtime, for example, you want to have melted snow, like the snow that melted, and you don't see the texture. Works perfectly fine, this product. Or sometimes I've seen people who are just using white pigment. It also actually works fine. And on this flat canvas, on the running gear, I was using, like here, you see here white on the running gear. This is also white pigment, just applied on top of, here I use gloss varnish, because I wanted to have some, you know, also a wet effect. So this is gloss varnish with white pigment, just put on top of it. again, similar to matte varnish. The varnish glues the pigment in its preserved form, so it's not diluting the pigment. Because if you put thinner, the thinner does what thinner should do, dilutes the pigment. And when you put it like that, on top of varnish, it just glues it. And another product is not a cream. So I just put it like that for transportation. It's called Shovel It Snow from Deluxe Materials, British company. But I'm sure there are different analogs for this. Yeah, it looks like a white powder, a really fine white powder. And how you do it, you can basically use it without any fixative. Just put it like that on the brush and brush it in, like on details. Like this is the way to show, for example, if you think about vehicle was going and the snow was falling and there was wind and you get accumulations of snow into different areas. So of course when you have a lot of, you need to have different details, so you can't do that on a flat surface. So it's very easy kind of, you just brush it there like here when there are drills, right? I just put it like that.
And you fix it with what?
I don't fix it, I just put it like, I mean, it's like, if I'm not going to touch it with hands or work with thinner or something like that, I just put it like that. And you know, there's accumulation of white in the grills. And if you want to make it on a particular special surface, you again use matte varnish. Just put it a little bit where you want, like let's say everywhere here, right? Just a little bit of varnish. This product I will look at snow laying on its own. So that, I mean, of course it depends on what kind of look you want to achieve. If you want to have this kind of look, you will be happy with it. If you want something else, you know, it's like you need to find the way you want to do it. Like you also can add gloss varnish, it will look more like melted snow and so on. Or you can press it with a brush so it's like more condensed. Or this way it's more, you know, flaky and things like that. So, yeah. But I use it on a couple of models now. I'm happy with it. Also, you can use it on diorama because this is mostly like for diorama makers. This Deluxe Material brand. But of course, I mean, it's like, you know, nowadays there are so many different brands and products. It's just you need to find something like what you have in your area, and you can try it. You can just try it, and yeah. If it works for you, then it works for you, it's perfect. If it doesn't work, then you need to try something else. But again, it's very important to try it first on, not on your model that you worked for 1 year now. Okay, I just need snow. Oh, I ruined the model that I worked for 1 year. So first try it on something that you don't need. Piece of plastic or like old model that you just use for experiments, and yeah, that's it. So, well, basically that's all I wanted to talk about, and if you have questions or...
No question. If you have to realize that there is snow on the ground.
Yes, if you want to...
To realize snow into the ground.
Snow in the ground.
Okay. Virgin snow.
Yeah, this is okay. Then you just, you know, do it like that. You put varnish or something like that on the ground, and
just to fix is sufficient to
no,
fix?
No, of course you need to first wet the surface with, let's say, varnish or, I don't know what you use, white glue maybe. white blue is okay, but it should be really white so it's not getting yellow. Okay? So, and then,
Yeah, this is for the tank, not for the ground.
yeah,
No,
this
it
is
is
what
the
I'm
same
showing.
technique.
You can say that you can use it on the ground. You just put it like that, and it will build
Also in the big surfaces.
well, usually, so this product, they sell it in this kind of can.
Okay.
So this is what you get. And they have also in different degrees. And yeah, I think the ground, you just imagine that this is ground, this is not tank turret, right? It would look like that. Well, I think it's okay. It's called shoal. It's also the snow that was put with the shoal somewhere. But they also have like flaked snow.
No, I found some product.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
that simulates very well the fresh snow. But if you have a big
So you want to have like,
certification,
so you want to have thick level of snow.
yeah.
Once I've seen in a book, Nordic Age, there's a book Nordic Age, and there the author made like from styrofoam, he made a base, and he cut inside the base the area for, inside the styrofoam, he cut the area for the vehicle, so that it was like, you know, this is the surface of styrofoam, and he cut it like that down for running gear. And then you cover the very thin top layer, and because of you made different layers, different levels of the base on the diorama, it looks like, oh, there's a half a meter snow, even though it's just, you know, a couple of millimeters there. But
Different layer.
Yeah, you just make different levels on the diorama, and it works like that. I know somebody else just have, I mean, you can say, this is a fresh snow on the vehicle or on the ground. It's like only there. Yeah, most of it holds. So it depends on how much varnish or when you do it. You want to. So yeah, these are the techniques. Yeah, really good. It's 1 hour 40 minutes. Almost all the time you use. So I mean, of course, you can, if you can make a good result with baking soda, I have nothing against it. You know, it's like okay, it works, super. So that's the thing, you know. It's like what works for you is fine with you. It's just, you know, what you need to know, to be aware of, you know, different methods and different techniques that you can use. But the products that they use, you know, it's like it's up to you. Okay. nic nie trzeba, tylko że chcesz to zależy na to, jak
Co děláš, záleží na tom, co chceš. Například chtěl bych si zkompresovanou, nebo když máš toho hodně, tak si můžeš používat hodně a to taky to
So from your back.
Co, nemáš rád?
Nevěděl jsem pořádně. Nevěděl jsem, že
Ne, to záleží na tom, kdo šel dělat něco s tím, nebo když to neděláš, to jen stojí, tak to funguje.
tady právě to
Navíc nic nebude. Ale tam je otázka s tím web effects.
This one is should be on the direct, but I didn't do it, okay? So I think I got this one is the door. What the trying to create the pressure was there is some
No, I won't touch it. I just
you just do what you want to do, okay?
not so much.
We don't speak about the names in China. You just did with the values in Chinese culture.
Yeah.
We are not fluent in speaking. I'm speaking Chinese, but not fluent.
Laptop or okay. Yeah, stick to this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I brush it.
Yeah, the finger.
Yeah, that's great. This is for.
This is an apple for enamel.
Oh yeah. No, just
You think it's not enough?
no. I just grab some because I don't know if you have or not.
The rest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Nothing more. I gotta load your things here.
I know this.
Yeah.
That's for dinner. It's not for lunch.
What you need?
Nothing particular.
Brush.
Anywhere?
Yeah, you have one, but maybe not here. Give me a second.
Oh, yeah, Okay, hello guys. So it's still not time yet, but so we'll just wait a bit and for you who are not familiar with me, it's a new face. So my name is Baying Wu, and you can just see some of my I don't know what's this. Let's see. Some of my works here. Let's see.
You don't need this one, yeah? Because it's...
Yeah.